Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Coach U Show. Today, we have the lead gen queen. She also runs Ad Skills, which is one of the top Facebook ads communities. She's spoken at Perry Marshall's event. We hung out in Chicago a few months ago. She was keynoting at Brian Kurtz. She's been speaking all over the place. She and I are both kind of like Asian brothers and sisters, really good at Facebook ads, helping founders, agency owners, course sellers. I'm super excited today to have Liana Ling on the show. Welcome, Liana.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
You are sharing so much amazing knowledge about using AI to be able to do lead gen and Facebook ads. For people that don't know anything about that, how should they be thinking about AI?
Well, that's actually a great question. And I wish more people ask that question because what I've discovered, and by the way, I am not one of those people who are terrified of it. I went through that phase where I was a bit worried at first, and then I quickly saw, wow, and I started to use it more for my superpower. And what I've discovered was surprising to me. Two things. Number one, I first discovered how many more human qualities we need to actually use it the best. And what I mean by that is, I've talked to like data scientists, I've talked to people who have their doctorates in AI, and I've asked all of them, how do you get so much out of AI? And I was so surprised that their number one response to me was imagination. It's that our human imagination is the only thing that's limiting us in terms of what we can do with AI. So I started looking at AI, especially ChatGPT, as just another human on my team. So ChatGPT is like the assistant that I never had. That's kind of geeky assistant. And like ChatGPT 4 to me is more like the smarter, more precise assistant. ChatGPT 3 is like the free intern who's coming in here and doesn't know too much and kind of daydreams a little bit. And I'm using Claude a lot more too. And to me, Claude's more like the chatty, smart AI, because I don't know about you, but it kind of annoys me sometimes because it always like explains to me everything that it's doing. But when I saw it like that, I realized that, I think a lot of us are going to be looking at ads wherever we go that say, buy this like library of 10,000 prompts or, get this encyclopedia. And you don't need that, because if you think about how you talk to your family, your kids, your team members, I don't go to a dictionary every time I need my kids to do anything, right? I'm just talking back and forth with them or my assistant or my VAs. You do it in the same way. So I'll ask them to do something. If I get back something that I'm not happy with, I'll just ask it to do it. And if I don't know how to ask it to do something, I thought this was brilliant. A friend of mine shared this with me. You just ask it how. If you don't know how to use ChatGPT, I was like, hey, how can I best use you to, write the table of contents of this book? Or how can I best use you to write my keynote speech? And then I'll say, ask me any questions that you need, just like a human. And I've been getting the best results out of this way. And I've seen other people who use it really well, especially like expert copywriters. And I've noticed that it's just a very smart dialogue that they're going back and forth with, which to me is fantastic because it makes it so much more easier for anybody to jump in and just use it. Have you found that as well?
Yeah, I have some key go-to phrases and questions I like to ask so that we don't hit a lot of these tropes and cliches and canned stuff, because ChatGPT doesn't know what is real or not. It's just digesting the internet, and 99% of it's garbage. But I'd love to hear some of your favorite phrases or techniques with ChatGPT.
Yeah. I actually like to get it out of that bucket, because you're right. Sometimes you put something in there and it's the same thing. I actually ask it a couple more times. I said, can you please rewrite that or give me another list that is innovative and something that hasn't been used before? I mean, obviously they're giving me something that's been used before, but it tends to not be as common. And I keep asking that a couple of times till I start to see things repeat. So that's one thing I like to do. Another thing I do, which has saved me in so many situations now with Facebook ads, because I run a lot of Facebook ads, is I created a prompt that says, you are a direct response copywriter and you can write in the style of any of these following 21 copywriters and marketers. And I asked it to give me a list of very diverse, well-known copywriters and marketers that have different styles, right? Like Robert Collier versus Perry Belcher, very different, right? And I put that in as a round robin. And what I'll do is I'll take my copy and I'll put it in there and ask it to write it in a different style. And then I'll just test every single one of those styles. And usually one or two of them just really take off. And it's saved me many times. And so just asking it to be innovative for me and then asking it to do this round robin in styles. And by the way, I do the same thing with designs because I like to make some designs in Canva. And I asked it just, what are all the different variety of design elements that I can choose? So it's like boho and retro and, you know, like futuristic and whatever. I just have all those there now. So again, I can test a variety of things because I need a list. So I can test a variety of those things as well. And I use those like almost every day.
Wow. I love especially what you said by telling ChatGPT who it is. You are an expert copywriter, or you are whatever it is, like Sam Woods has with his examples of other prompts.
Yeah.
What other things do we need to know to not make mistakes? So let's say that, you know, I'm an ad agency and I do a lot of Facebook ads. What kinds of things should I say or not say?
I don't actually see it as you're using ChatGPT wrong. Because to me, again, it's the same thing as telling somebody you are instructing your team wrong. I think that there's like different ways of coming at it. So the way I think about it is, you know, like you said, first of all, number one, it's more, to me, it's more of a writing tool. And if it connects to the internet, some of them do, that's great, but you should still use that same level of perception of believing stuff on the internet. So just be careful about that. Don't use it necessarily as a researcher. And then just another number 2 guideline is be very careful about what you feed it though, because I haven't dove into a lot of it, but I know that there are some privacy concerns that people have. We don't have to go into all of it here, but I basically tell people what I've been saying for years is don't put anything in there that you wouldn't be comfortable seeing on the front page of a newspaper. So when you're uploading info, don't put in email addresses, don't put in, and if you have to put in code words for your stuff, do that, but you can still get the information you need out of it. Beyond that,
don't connect your CRM.
Probably not. Although we do connect it to Facebook, but that's a whole other different conversation, right? You know, but otherwise, I think it's just about really getting to know it better and how to go back and forth with it, because you and I could put in the exact same prompt and we're going to get different results from it. In the same way we choose different VAs and we'll get different results from the VAs. So in the same way that we have SOPs and instructions for our VAs, it's fine to have, but I just think that you just have to make sure that you are open to having a dialogue with it to get the output that you want. So, that's why I don't see it as black and white in terms of you're doing this wrong with it. But I would say that to get the best results from it is you do have to know what you want. You have to, the more specific you are in the outcome that you want, and just tell it that and be as specific as possible, the better it is. And so just feel free to, you don't even have to have great sentences, like put it in point form, however you want. I've seen people too who dictate it into it because they're not great typers or they just don't write very well, but they speak well. So they'll speak the instructions into ChatGPT just using, the other phone or something. In
the app.
And that's helped them.
Yeah. Liana, do you think that ChatGPT will replace VAs?
What do you think is I think it will change the role of VAs. I know you work with a lot of VAs and you're so great at helping VAs find jobs. And I think that, and this is what I'm actually facing with the agency owners in our community, is what I'm seeing is I think we're seeing a change in the purpose and the roles of VAs. Like, so for example, I have a VA. I used to have several of them who I had to hire around the clock to watch Facebook ads from clients because the internet never sleeps. And especially for some of the bigger ones, I really had to make sure that we were just completely covered. But, it's not 100% because people are fallible, right? So I've now evolved so that we have automations in place, we have AIs in place so that our VAs are doing more about managing the accounts and like manage and double checking and QAing and managing kind of how the automation is working as opposed to being button pushers as much. And I take a look at what they do and I'm always thinking, okay, how can I make their lives easier so that I can help elevate them to something else? And I've been very fortunate to have a team of VAs who just love to learn and they'll just jump right in. So I'm excited because they actually thank me too. They said, thank you so much for teaching me this new skill. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if they were still stuck literally like pushing buttons, 24/7 instead of being able to like learn new things and elevating it. And then I can spend more time on strategy and doing those things. So no, I don't think it's going to replace VAs, but we really have to think, I think, of the role that they can play, which I'm not sure everybody really is ready for that yet.
I think it's more than going to be affecting VAs. But let's say that we have some of our friends, I'd like to say VA, but other people say international partners or whatnot. And my buddy Rehan has 14 million people that follow him in Pakistan, and we have people in the Philippines and whatnot. And they don't know anything about ChatGPT or whatnot. How should they go about learning?
I think you just have to use it. Nobody is an expert right now. This is so new. And we're all using it and we're all sharing what we learned. So I don't think anybody is truly an expert in the way that, you're an expert in SEO and Facebook ads and Twitter ads and everything that you've been sharing with us over these many years. And so I think it's just about diving in and learning it. And what I usually suggest for my VAs is I said, the first thing is I said, just go to Bing. Go to Bing Chat because it's not ChatGPT. It doesn't feel so intimidating, right? And I said, just follow the prompts there. I think one of the prompts is like, write me a recipe, or I'll just give them an email. And I say, hey, just ask it to rewrite this email and I'll try and make it fun. I said, like, make it sound like a cowboy or make it, pick something, just so they start to get the feel for it. Because that's what I don't know if you've noticed that, but at least just on my team, I've noticed that there's a little bit of apprehension and it's almost like they're afraid that something is going to break or they're going to do it wrong. And I said, no, just do it. And then let me know what the output is. And when they give me the output, instead of me correcting it, I'll say, well, why don't you ask it to do it this way? And then they do it. And then we're happy with the output and they feel like they've accomplished something, right? And they've learned something and now they just use it over and over again. And I've just found it to be much more empowering that way. And then I'm just giving them a few things to do, but that I think you just have to just use it on something that is super simple and not intimidating. And then you can start to use it for more and more complicated things.
I like to think of success with AI as, especially generative AI, like these language models, as your ability to have thoughtful conversations using active listening. Because that highlights what you just said about creativity and about having the AI as like this colleague that is smarter than you and has read and watched everything that can be consumed. And I find the biggest issue with most VAs and even most people that are digital creator, agency, consulting, coaching sorts of folks is that they get caught in doing the same repetitive robotic things, kind of like in Westworld. And they don't know how to have a thoughtful communication. They don't know how to practice active listening is the best thing. Like listening to what the AI said and being able to ask smart questions back. And I think the best way is like what you and I are doing. I'm reacting to I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm reacting thinking, what do I think of what Liana just said? And not that I want to argue with you, but where might I disagree, or where do I find what she said? How does that fit in with the things that I know? Because I have my ball of knowledge and then you're introducing new facts and I'm like Legoing in trying to see like, does this fit? Or how does this fit what she said? How does that fit with my view of the world? And do I want to accept or reject or modify what I have? And I think this thoughtful exercise of being able to think and this back and forth communication, like you said, you often have to ask 2 or 3 times or say, no, wrong, say it in the voice of so-and-so, or no, I forgot to tell you my objective was this. I find the ability to think that way is the biggest skill. I know people call it creativity, but when I hear creativity, I think of like artists and, imagination and things like that, instead of like being able to think. Because I see most people in their conversations, it's just so superficial. It's a one-way monologue, kind of like, especially with like VAs, is like, kindly sir, give me job, need work now, hire me please, here's my resume. And it has no sense of like understanding or care of what the other person's saying. What do you think about that? And most people who do lead gen, they're doing the same thing. They're out there spamming, and they're not listening to they're not showing empathy for the problem.
Exactly. And this goes back to the humanness part of it, right? This is just about, like you said, learning empathy, learning these higher level skills, personal development skills. And as business owners, like, let's just get real here, right? If you're most business owners, when they're hiring VAs, they are not thinking, oh, I'm also going to add into my budget personal development training and leadership training for my VAs. Yeah. They're not, right? I have a few friends who actually do that, and they're just growing like crazy, and they have amazing teams because of this. But most of us, and I didn't for a long time, because I just thought of, okay, a VA is doing this repetitive thing every day. They don't need to know all that. And I think that we're going to need to step up our games this way, because I know, like, when people are writing, oh, you can have $100 million company with 3 people. But reality is, you still need to hire people to manage the automations, to manage what's happening. You still can't do it all by yourself. You're going to need help. And if you have a smaller team that you have to rely on, that team needs to be of a higher caliber. So I really think that we as business owners need to step up and start to see VAs as humans, and to a lot of them are very eager to learn, as I found, and to learn how to have these, learn how to have these skills, which I actually think ChatGPT can help. Like, I'm thinking about this more. I'm going to go ask ChatGPT after we're done. How can I better help train people to have more empathy and ask better questions? And it'll probably give me a whole list of things, to teach them.
I think ChatGPT has more empathy than I do, because I don't have that kind of patience. I'm like, I'm tired of answering that same question over and over again. You should just Google that.
We can create. Well, that's what I love about all this automation and things like that. I'm actually working with Alex Stewart next week, because we're going to be creating a bunch of these standalone bots. But I think I need to probably create one that is very patient and empathetic, and will respond to them, so they can go talk to that bot if I don't have time.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Some of the programming communities have fallen 40% in traffic, because programmers are just using Copilot or AI tools to write their code and not going to the forums to ask for help. And a lot of my friends that are in big tech, and they work at Google and Facebook and other folks, are leaning on these tools to help them write code. Do you think that these AI tools are kind of turning the seesaw in favor of creative people that are non-tech? Because it used to be the stuff that you and I were doing, like Facebook ads way back in the day. There was a lot of technology and a lot of geekery involved. And now, is it possible that this has leveled the playing field? So people who are coaches, people who do things that are more soft, that are creative, that are not engineers, are actually able to win. They can have the winning hand, because it's not a disadvantage to not be able to code anymore. Sam Altman said that the programming language of this year, it's not Python or Perl or SQL, it's English. So if you're a coach, or you're creative, or you do something that is not hard and technical, this can be your opportunity, no?
It's definitely a leveled playing field, for sure, with a lot of, I think, the basic things that most of us have just kind of jumped in and started doing with ChatGPT. And I think that we're seeing is very similar to when Zapier came out. And then all of a sudden, we didn't, I don't need a programmer to kind of put these two things together. I can use Zapier because it's no code, low code, right? So yes, like they are, but the thing is, I think it's interesting, because it's almost going to come back to us, because now that everybody can write a book, everybody can write a blog article, it just means that there's going to be a lot more. I feel like it's the 80s again, when everybody was spinning articles. Like, there's just going to be a lot of crap put out there.
A lot of
into
content
the world,
farms.
Right? Yes. But what happened, right? We got past that point at some, and the quality kind of went back up again. I think we're going to see that, but we just don't know what it's going to look like because we're in the middle of that right now. But it's a very empowering because yes, they can code, they can create some basic things on their own without, like, my mom can go in now and she can just ask Bing or at ChatGPT to help her create a schedule and program this in. And this is somebody who would just click all over the screen. She doesn't mind me saying this when something doesn't work, right? Like, where's the trash can? But somebody who doesn't have a lot of computer experience can do this. But on the other hand, the way that I'm seeing things evolve, and this is why I also, I'm trying to work with more experts as well, because it's still complex to string things together. We're working on a project next week where we're going to create a couple different bots and integrate it into Slack. And I know intellectually how it should work, but I have no idea how to use Railway and use all these other tools to put it together. So I need somebody with some expertise and imagination of how to still put it all together. So it's not quite, it's still a little bit outside of my grasp, but yeah, it's truly amazing. It really is in terms of what it's enabling people to do. I still think it goes back to our imaginations. Like we're either going to destroy ourselves or we're going to take us to the next level, depending on how we imagine and decide to do things. And then, I don't want to go on to a rant about this because I probably could, but we also are still our worst enemies, right? We still have the problem of most humans have trouble implementing. So we can give them ChatGPT, which will spit out, right? Like course material and outlines and books. And, how many people have gone through a book workshop and they still haven't published their book because they wrote it, but they still have to take that last step. So there's still that human component, I think, working against us there.
Well, do you think the AI is going to do that next? Because I see integration of AI in the CRM tools, in pretty much every tool out there to get the action done automatically.
Well, you still have to want to get it done, right? Yeah. You still have to want it to get done, to put that in place. And maybe it will. But maybe that's just going to create some bigger problems where we still have to, do the next step. So, but I think it's just going to level everything up. Like it's just going to be a different layer because you and I could be bots right now. We could be having a conversation with each other and we could be putting that out. But then there's something else that you and I probably have to do to grow our businesses. That's next level since we're not doing that. So, but I do look forward to a time when we can get a lot of those mundane tasks just done without thinking about it.
Yesterday, in preparing for this podcast interview, I told ChatGPT I'm interviewing Liana Ling. And I'm Dennis Yu. What kinds of questions should I ask? What kinds of comments should I make? What jokes should I say to create some humor and things like that? And it gave me a bunch of tips and examples. And I feel like I'm cheating by using any of these things. But I also know that the more the AI knows about you, because you've published a ton of videos and articles, you run a massive community, which ChatGPT can't see because it's on Facebook as a group. But I feel like the more the AI knows about you, the more it can help you, especially your business publicly as you grow your personal brand, which you've been doing a great job of. Question for you. I'm giving the closing keynote in a month at the National Funeral Directors Association. So thousands of funeral directors are there, and they chose me to talk about AI. And what do funeral directors, who are typically like your mom and my mom, not as technically savvy, they run funeral homes. So you can imagine what they do in their day-to-day. And this AI thing is like some Tom Cruise Matrix Minority Report kind of movie thing. What should they understand? What is true and what's not true? And what should they be doing practically when it comes to all this? There's every day there's like another set of tools, right? What should I say to them, Liana? Right? I'm going to quote you too. So okay, you tell me.
They need to understand, have a deeper understanding of the problems and challenges in their business. That's where I would start. What's a problem? Well, let's talk about this right now. Like, what do you think is a big problem that funeral directors face? Just each one of them on a day-to-day basis.
Biggest one is marketing. And they don't understand SEO and websites and all the agency nonsense being thrown at them. And every day people tell them, you need to be on Snapchat, or you need to run Facebook ads, or you need to whatever. And they have no idea how. It's like me going to the mechanic and the mechanic says, you need a new transmission. I'm like, okay, how do I know? Right.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, they need to get the word out. But then I've also, because I've talked to a couple of them too, and they also struggle with how to get the word out in a way that is relevant and palpable to the audience, because nobody likes to talk about death, and nobody's
Right.
talking about nobody's sharing TikToks and doing dances inside of a funeral home, right? It's just
No, that'd be
inappropriate
weird.
as well. And that's just not what's happening. So I think that they also struggle with that too. And so I would say, you look at your problems first and pick the first problem, and then think about how can AI be what do they call it? The iron triangle? Like, how can it make it cheaper, faster, better?
So I'll give you a problem.
Okay.
So funeral homes are doing less caskets and burials, which is how they make a lot of money on the casket and the whole general like cemetery traditional way of doing things, because people are moving towards cremation, and that's a lot less money. I mean, funeral homes are business, got to make money. So the Jewish folks are the ones they make the most money on, because the Jewish folks want the burial, and they got to get the body into the ground by the time the sun gets down and all this.
Yep.
And people are, especially that are younger, are doing the celebration of life. So instead of holding it at the funeral home, they'll hold it at their church or some pretty place outside by the lake and play the music, and people come and tell their stories, and they're just having a celebration. It's like this happy party thing with the DJ, instead of the somber, everyone wears black kind of thing, which is less money for the funeral home. And this is the general trend. People will say, oh, well, funeral homes are always great, even in a recession, because people still die. But that's not true, because people will spend less money in a recession. So funeral homes are having to deal with people's changing culture. So how do you deal with that?
First of all, I would be telling exactly what you just said. I would take that whole transcript of what you said. That's why I asked them, like, what's your problems? What's your biggest challenge? And I would put that into ChatGPT, first of all. And I would ask ChatGPT to provide me with some ideas of how I, as a funeral home, can pivot to stay relevant and capture some of this business. Because even just as you spoke, like, I'm immediately thinking, yes, like, we think of funeral homes as very somber places, but why? Like, why does it have to be that way? Because they haven't evolved over however many years that, we've been using them in society. So I would ask ChatGPT to give it us some ideas. Again, just use it as a sounding board. The other thing I would do too is, if they somehow have, and again, because I know it's sort of an awkward time, but if you're getting feedback from people that you've worked with, what I did recently was I collected the answers to a survey that one of my clients did. And I used the ChatGPT code interpreter, because you can upload a CSV file. And I uploaded those answers in there. And I just had a dialogue with it. And I just used it as a sounding board. I said, with this, so first of all, I said, like, what are their deepest, darkest desires that they haven't expressed, like, based on everything here? And I just let it riff for me on that. Or I said, hey, we're thinking about this. Would this deeply resonate with that audience? Because there must be, when you talked about it, people aren't buying caskets. My marketer brain now is thinking, well, why do people buy them? Yes, so we have because of your faith, but what are other reasons why you would do that? If I really understand why, and maybe I can have a conversation with ChatGPT about this, I can figure out how to use that in my sales and marketing material to show that as a viable option, instead of people thinking that cremation is just really the only and best way to do it. But having those, using that code interpreter, if you have the data and you can literally talk to this data and have conversations, that has been game changing for me, because I thought that our copy was pretty on point for this one campaign. And then I asked it, I was like, well, look at this ad. Does it deeply resonate? It said, not quite. I said, well, can you rewrite it so it does? And it did. And I put it out there and it worked. And so I would just use it as that sounding board for each one of those funeral directors. And I'd also ask it to give me questions that I should be asking so that I can stay relevant. Because it sounds to me, the way you're describing it, is that they haven't evolved enough yet. How can they facilitate? How can they provide that celebration experience themselves? Why are people looking elsewhere? Right? You and I are marketers. But every time we talk to people, we want to sell them something. Like, we want to connect them with something. We don't want people to go away empty-handed, right?
Yeah.
So why aren't they doing that? Right? When they talk to people, instead of putting themselves in this like narrow category that people see themselves in, and they can, like, can you imagine? This is actually cool because now I'm thinking I want to do this for a funeral company now. If they had a campaign where they did have a celebration of life, maybe division, and they provided that, and they wrote articles about that and put pictures and followed your $1 a day strategy and put that out there, and people saw this funeral home as not just, yes, you can have that somber, solemn thing, but if this is your thing, they'll also facilitate that for you as well. Like, how can they be that trusted partner and guidance for you during this really difficult time, just to provide whatever it is that you want to do, as opposed to they're just one option and then, oh, you don't provide that, I got to go look for something else.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of that is going to be pre-need versus at need. At need is they just died and, now there's this mad rush, but obviously pre-need's way better because you have planning and you're instead of just waiting for someone to die and trying to rank on those Google terms.
Right.
That's killer.
And what can you provide that is that's also a value? I mean, why do funeral homes have to only sell something when somebody dies? Is there something else that they could, again, I do this with ChatGPT as a sounding board. What other services or what can you provide beforehand that is actually very valuable and helpful, to families?
Well, all stuff with the will and probate, if like having all that stuff taken care of before the loved one dies, because once the loved one dies, then often the government seizes all the assets and you have to deal with taxes and all kinds of stuff because the government wants to take all your money. But if you do the living wills, there's all kinds of planning that you can do so that the expenses are already covered, so that you already know how the loved one wants to be able to handle things.
Sure.
So we don't have to try to decide, especially when you're grieving, the last thing you want to do is having to make, all these decisions.
Yep.
But
collaborate, right? With the legal community.
I wonder how many funeral homes are collaborating with financial advisors.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what if you were able to collaborate with somebody like YNAB, for example, and as a very specific section of the population who is thinking about planning and using YNAB to also plan for these types of expenses as well. So like tools like that as well, they could, how can you be part of that budgeting conversation? Because nobody thinks about it because they don't want to think about it, but you need to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's some creativity, Liana.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned
now you got me going. So like, where's a funeral home we can help now? So,
well, we've got thousands of them, and I'll take sound bites from what you said and I'll give you credit. I'll put your big face on the screen. Like instead of Chairman Mao, I'll be Chairman Liana. So you mentioned the code interpreter and how that's a game changer. Talk about that for people that don't know what it is.
Sure. It's something that recently got pushed out to all the paid users, I believe, of ChatGPT. What it does, what's different about it, the main difference is it has a tiny plus button at the very bottom where you can upload an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file. And what's very helpful from that perspective is you can upload a file and then you can have a conversation with it. And this, I think, really illustrates how much bigger and faster ChatGPT is, because it can take all these data points and just interpret them just like that. So imagine if you just, again, be careful what information you feed into it, but imagine just downloading your ad results or downloading, the results from your campaign or just some other stats and just uploading it and just literally ask it any question. Say, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? And then you can start asking it things like I really love to ask the opposite. Like what, if I'm thinking about marketing things. So I might say, what type of messaging and, would really turn these people off if I'm talking to survey results, or if I'm talking to, spreadsheet about ad results, I might say, do you see any patterns on there? Can you help me predict what might happen with this ad based on this data? So that's one way that I find people can use. And you're not actually doing any coding. I'm just using that functionality of it, reading the spreadsheet. I've also, I used it as a help desk for just coding purposes. I sometimes get frustrated when I go into a help desk and sometimes I feel like I just get stuck in a loop, right? And they're asking you questions like, why are they asking me this? Instead, I've just gone into ChatGPT code interpreter and I've put some code. I said, okay, I've even said, like, I want to code this. Please tell me how. So it did that. I wanted at one point to learn how to run a transcriber from my computer using Google's transcriber. And so I asked it and it gave it to me. And I said, please give it to me step by step, like I'm 5. So it did. And then I ran into some problems. So I said, hey, I got this error. Here's the error. And then it said, oh, I'm sorry. You need to do this. And it just gave me the solution. And I just kept troubleshooting with it. And it was it was so less stressful than talking to a chat support person who then would eventually not be helpful and then just say, oh, our team has to look into it. So I just had this great dialogue with it. And I'm not a coder. I'm not a coder at all. But it wasn't condescending to me. It wasn't, it was just very patient with me, and it was very polite, and it would always apologize to me. And so it was delightful.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
What other ways are you using, some other specific examples that you're using AI tools like
Sure.
ChatGPT? Love to hear more things, or if you want to show something, that's cool too.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have all of my examples ready to show. I mean, we talked about the code interpreter, but I have used it just literally to write SOPs because I'm a big SOP person. So I told it, this is how I have a process I follow, a format, I follow. And then I said, can you just write this for me? So it's way faster. But I tell you, the most powerful way I've been using it recently, which I think everybody should be doing, like whether you're a VA or a business owner or, or a C-suite or whoever you are. So I've been working on something with Kevin Nations where he challenged me to create not just my ideal self, but my storybook self. He said, if you could be the heroine in a story, who would you be? And then I started to run with this idea. So I went into ChatGPT and I told it who I was, my experience. And then I also told it who I imagined myself to be if I was the hero of a story.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started asking it questions. Like I asked it to describe for me the house that my storybook self would live in. And then I asked it to create a prompt for me so that I could put that into Midjourney so that I could visualize it. I started to ask it, okay, like I have this problem I missed a deadline with a client. How would my storybook self respond? And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, that's way better than what I would do. I asked it to describe my ideal day. And what was interesting to me is once I saw that, I thought, man, I sound really boring. So I told it, this sounds boring. I want to be extraordinary. I want to show up extraordinary in public and in my family and in my work. And I gave it all these areas of my life. I said, please, but I don't know how. Please, add more things into my storybook self to make me extraordinary. And it did. And then I asked it to write my ideal day, and just reading it, Dennis, made me feel so empowered. And I actually filled out a questionnaire for my keynote speech coach. And right after I did this, because I was like on a high, and I met with her on Friday, and she's like, you were just on fire. I was like, that's because I did this exercise.
Wow.
And I'm just asking it like, how would I show up to my family? Or like, how would I market this? And what would I say? And so the idea that was planted in my head about thinking about myself in a story has become so real now to me through ChatGPT. And I actually have dialogue that I can use to help me be that storybook self today. It's been so empowering and just so, I just can't explain, like it's hard to describe, but it's just, I can just put in literally any problems I have in there. Or I said like, oh, like, how would you market ad skills if I was your storybook self? Or like, how would you run this mastermind if I was my storybook self? And I was just blown away by the responses because it gave me ideas that I hadn't thought before. And it helped me to think bigger. And just that I can continue to have this dialogue now with all this chat that I have inside of there is amazing. I've just been on cloud nine since I started doing that, and highly recommend anybody just to go try and do that.
Wow. That's an incredible advisory angle. I'm going to go, as soon as we're done, I'm going to go try that right now for my storybook self.
Yep. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then ask it what superhero you would be. So it told me I'm Iron Man. And my friend Zach is able to map your face, like where it's not distorted or anything. And you can see on my Facebook profile, I posted pictures of me as Iron Woman. So
they look great.
It's great.
I love the cartoon Liana there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to me, it's just kind of fun, but it feels just really empowering to me to look at that. And it just helps me to think bigger. That's one of the things I've been doing. You've been helping me with that a lot too. And I'm just really trying to think bigger and think, how can I make unreasonable decisions to think bigger? And this has really helped me a lot.
Amazing. What questions do you wish people would ask you, Liana?
I wish they would ask me about how much more I failed. I think I would really be liking to talk more about failure And instead of, oh, what are the amazing things you've done? Managing millions of dollars of this and becoming CEO of Ad Skills and, building this community here. I wish that we had a lot more deeper discussions about failure, because that's what propelled me to where I am today. Not like the successes are just byproducts of that. The failures and like the embarrassments and all those things, I think that's really where real growth happens. And I just wish we could have more of those deeper discussions. And, so I kind of wish they said that. And I also wish that more people said, hey, to be honest, I wish they would say, how can I be more part of your community? How can I add value, and how can I work, closer with you? I love it when people ask that. I ask that of people all the time too. And I think
you do.
I wish people would just ask more people of that. If you feel connection with somebody, just ask.
So I'm going to ask you, how can I help out the Ad Skills community? How can I help you grow the membership? How can I help contribute value?
Yeah. Well, one thing, and I think I have to follow up with you on this. I would love it if you provided, some customized training inside of Ad Skills. We're all big fans of you inside of there. We'd love to have you do that. I'd love to have you be part of a live event.
Anytime.
For Ad Skills.
You name it, count me in.
All right, let's do it. I would love to do that. And if I plan to do some in-person events, so depending where you are in the world, you're always welcome to come, and, we'd love to put you on stage. But that's, it's such I think that the community just definitely feels like family, and you feel like family to me too, Dennis, and the community that you've created as well. So I know it's a really good fit. And I just think the more we can continue to help people in there, then it will just keep attracting, more people.
Amazing. I appreciate you so much, Liana. You are just such an optimist. You have an abundance mindset. You could be riding your royal throne and carriage as the lead gen queen that's the head of a huge community, but you've always been so thoughtful and so helpful. And I feel like we would be connected like brothers and sisters, even independent of the fact that we both do ads and use AI tools and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I just really appreciate your soul. I appreciate just how you are and how you make other people better when they're around you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Liana Ling. She's the Ad Skills Queen. You've learned about AI. I hope that you get to implement a lot of these things in your business. Let us know which of these things made you go, because I had lots of these sorts of moments. Let us know, if you have other questions for Liana. Liana, how can people find you?
They can find me either online, on social. I'm the lead gen queen pretty much everywhere you go. And you can also find me inside of the Ad Skills community. I am in Slack there every single day, multiple times a day.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Liana. And thank you guys on the Coach U show. We'll talk to you soon. Awesome. That was good.
Okay,
that was really good. I've got a bunch of homework, man.
Okay. Yeah.
You got me thinking now.
Oh, okay, good. Hey, I had a good question for you. So I've been going through this. I'm in a Jeremy Anderson and Eric Thomas's speech masterclass. And so in 2 weeks, I'm going to be going to Atlanta, and they're going to do my speakers reel and things like that.
Oh, cool.
Do you have any, what's your advice to me? They're turning me into also a motivational speaker as well on that way, because I want to be just help me be more expressive. But what are your suggestions? Well,
it goes back to your goal. So if you want to be like Eric Thomas and be this hip hop motivational preacher, which I think certainly makes sense, because the whole talking about failure naturally leads towards personal development kinds of angles, and having footage of you speaking on stage, and the credibility of you being around these other people and the accomplishments, like you check those boxes. What I have not seen from you, but maybe you do have, is the footage of you speaking, and from the stage where we can see big audiences. The number one thing for pro level speakers that are paid, I'm one of the few people out there that is $1 million speaker. I've made over $1 million in speaking. Free speaking is a whole nother game. But the pro level speakers, they have shots where it's you saying something to the audience, showing you, then panning to the audience in the same shot to show the reaction, and then panning back to you.
Okay.
That shot is very difficult to capture, because most of the time, if you're in a large venue, the cameras are in the back.
Right.
And when the cameras are in the back, then you are way out there and you don't see the size of the audience. So you have to bring camera people
Yep.
when you speak to capture those moments.
Yep.
And then most people, when they have a speaker reel, they create their first one is what's called a sizzle reel. And a sizzle reel is just a bunch of highlight moments where, big audiences, you with someone, not it's just like boom, boom, boom with all the music that doesn't really get into the vibe of who you are, which is more of a topical reel, speaker reel. There's different kinds of speaker reels, right? The sizzle reel is like boom, 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 flashy, flashy, versus when it's a topical one, or like Brennan Burchard calls it a signature story. It goes in a little bit deeper, and instead of 1 minute, it might be 3 minutes or 4 minutes. So you need those different components to be able to build authority. And the other part too is, and only professional speakers know this, is that you have a reel on your personal brand website that shows how you work with the event organizers and how they give great feedback. They say, having Liana was amazing. She was prepared. This is, we went through this particular process. She made sure to tune her speech for our audience. And so she delivered an amazing experience. The feedback that we got was amazing. And then the shots showing you on stage are not just you making big points or saying key themes that you want to emphasize, because that's what you do for the consumer, for the people in the audience, but really to show the reaction. What you really want to do is have videos showing where you say something and we see the reaction, and then the packaging all that, event organizer after organizer. Then the bureaus want to work with you. You get a lot more direct outreach. I haven't seen you share any of those items. Maybe you have them, but I've never seen you share those items that are necessary to move to being a pro level speaker.
Yep. Because I never think ahead of time to bring somebody to film it. Why
do you think I bring all these people to events, right? I bring, young adults, and we have a whole course on how to do that. So whenever you have an event, then just have them go through our training on how to, and they don't need to be professional videographers. They do not need fancy equipment, but they do need to know how to hold an iPhone and be moving and capturing those moments in vertical and horizontal.
Yeah.
And I've got a bunch of sessions where I show how to do that. Like I've done it on stage I've been that VA. Well, it's not a VA because I'm actually there, but I've done it on stage where other friends of mine are speaking in front of a couple thousand people. And I'm literally holding my phone like this, walking up on stage behind them, capturing those key moments.
Okay.
Where they do the shout out and they say, hey, everybody, raise your hand if you're like, because, you can do things like to pump up the audience. And then you say, raise your hand if you're like this. And then everyone's hand goes up and you can see that moment of, you don't have to do the Tony Robbins jump up and down kind of stuff, but you have to get the audience participating. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay. Yeah. No, totally. I'm with you. Yeah.
And then that becomes your first speaker reel, the sizzle reel. And then you can run that all over the place and then run that you can just use that everywhere. It's like salt in your food. You can use that to grow the ad skills community. You can use it in your podcast, intro video. You can put on your personal, you can use it everywhere, right?
Okay.
Different parts of it.
Okay. Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah. I'll show you my speaker reel if you want to see, or the different speaker reels I have organized here. I'll just show you real quick.
Yeah.
So cast ended like 10 minutes ago or whatever, but
I want to do something different.
This Zoom thing is in the way. View, where's my files? Why can't I not? I'm just going to hit open. Okay. I'm going to open this thing here. Yeah. We will build this for you. Okay. Help you build this. Okay. So most people, about the content factory and the 4 stages to get the stuff out there. Dollar days, the last part. So I have a lot of content that's high authority, like TV, speaking, all this stuff, right? And you should be organizing this into this kind of format as well. Like speaking in all these different places, knowing all these different people, having the book, right? All this stuff, right? All these things. But then with the speaker reel, I think I went past it. Did I go past it? I went past it. Sorry. Whoops. You have that initial speaker or sizzle reel where it shows you igniting the audience and big audiences. You always start with the biggest audiences first. Okay. Right. So you have this kind of stuff, TV, a mix of stills and these large audience pieces.
Yeah. So you got the audience in there. Yeah.
So this is easy. There's a format for doing this. Probably the best person at this is David Meerman Scott. He does it perfectly. Okay, so what he does, I guess he calls it a highlight reel. So it's the same thing. It's showing big audiences.
Okay.
Notice how this is different than a regular speaker reel. What most people do with the speaker reel is just showing shots on stage, and they try to find the biggest stages. And if you've been on a big stage, then of course that's more impressive. It's more likely to attract because the organizer is not looking for the best speaker. The organizer is looking for someone who's safe,
Right.
who's going to be able to entertain, who's easy to work with, and isn't a big, ego. But look at what he's done here. So big audience, big stage, and it shows his name, right? But also shows the preparation. The key is it shows the vibe, right? See, look. So inbound, he's the guy for Tony Robbins. He speaks at all the Tony Robbins.
How about okay, go? Oh my gosh, talk about inbound marketing. Those videos those guys do are fantastic.
Right.
The way people buy is fundamentally
Now notice this is Liana, this is done for the event organizer. Listen.
decade or so. The thing that's
So smart.
Notice it switched from huge stage speak. The huge stage is to show the credibility, and then it moves into something more personal, like you're having a one-on-one. But you see why starting with this wouldn't have worked. You had to start with the big stage intros, right?
Right.
To show the cred. Right now, he's saying what he's talking about and how he charges $100,000 to speak.
Yep.
So he can do that because you can look at how he does this.
research. They go to Google, they ask their friends and colleagues and family members in social networks, and they come armed with tons of information when they're ready to make a purchase. That is the idea of instant and real time.
Now he shows all these books and whatever you see. Look at that.
Yeah.
Notice this is not for the consumer. Notice that this is clearly for the organizer, right?
About when they're generating content to reach people on the web. I typed in Antarctica expedition and all of these different expedition outfitters popped up. I could have gone with National Geographic Expeditions, but take a look at this. They're selling to me before they're educating me, this huge fat button saying, request a reservation. I don't want a reservation. I'm trying to learn something. I'm trying to convince my wife to go with me to Antarctica. And then I found the one with the best content, Park Expeditions. And they were educating me. They were providing value.
See, he's showing what a great storyteller he is.
Yep.
And then look at what he does on his site. This is incredible. You basically just copy this for your own personal brand website.
Okay.
Right? I mean, look at that picture. Now, notice this picture was taken from being on stage. You got to bring someone to be on stage because the cameras in the back are not going to be able to capture this picture.
Right.
So usually the organizers will let you do one little selfie shout out kind of moment towards the end. And that's the moment when your guy has to come up on stage and capture this. And as long as they don't act all weird, nobody thinks it's weird. But you see how this is taking a picture of taking a picture. Now he could have used the selfie picture. Yeah. But you see that's from his phone. But do you see how this is actually more powerful than the selfie picture itself?
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing.
Because A, it shows the audience, but B, because it's a big audience, but B, look at how people are cheering and how happy they are. And that's what you got to be able to show.
Okay.
Right. And then this, instead of, see a speaker reel, watch David in action.
Right.
Now look at what he has under speaking, because he's got multiple 7-figure businesses, right?
Oh, that's a good shot.
Now, why is it a good shot?
Right. Because it's like you said, you can only have that shot from the stage. His guy took it.
That's right. And before they took the shot, because most people the audience are like, they're on their phones, they're on their laptops.
Yeah. He's like, they're all like, ah.
Yeah, you got them all charged up. Now everyone, blah, 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 like getting everyone to start cheering. And then he takes the picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you actually have to prepare
for
this shot. If you don't prepare for this shot, you're not going to get it. You have to intentionally want this shot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then notice he's got a few topics that he can talk about. Right. And he talks about the process, after the keynote, I'm always there. I'm
so smart.
Prepare. We get together to make sure we craft the experience. So it's not just a speech. Right. And if you hire him, it's going to go well. Mm-hmm. And who are these other people? These are the organizers. And it's not saying, oh, David's a great speaker or is entertaining. Like, look at what they're saying.
Right.
He's effective, like the person from Microsoft, right? The guy is fantastic, right? So as an event organizer, it's going to go well because the event organizer is always afraid of hiring a dud.
Right.
So nowhere here does it say it's like $100,000 to get him to speak. But if you look at the places that he's speaking, you pretty much know this is not some like free speaker come like, we'll just cover your hotel room. Like it's not one of those.
Yep.
Right. And then he's got all these other things too, right? He's got all that. And for him at the super pro level, when you have a book, that's when you get and therefore you're able to like put the stake in the ground saying like, I own this topic. This is arguably, I think, the best selling book in marketing right now. I'm in it too. You put me in it, which I appreciate. But the book then causes these event organizers to want to hire you to talk about that thing, about customer service, about digital, about AI. Like you have to put the book out, right?
Got it.
And so a lot of speakers, they get the book and then that drives their speaking for them. But then 3 years later, they don't have that book's now getting old. So you have to come out with a new book, right?
Yep.
So that's why he's got so many New York Times bestsellers and all that.
Yep.
Otherwise you can, now if you're a free speaker, you don't have to have any of these things, but you mentioned, and I think folks like, our hip hop preacher guy and other folks that they're focused more on stage presence and techniques on stage and how do you tell a story and how do you physically move and whatever. But I think, and those are great, but I think that the other components of a speaking business, which you need, even though I know like your main income is not speaking. Yeah. You still want to have these other components.
Yes. Yeah. No, I do. That's exactly it. Because this is like definitely something where I just want to take it to the next level because I never really intentionally worked on it.
You have the knowledge. I mean, you've earned it. You just need to go through those steps now.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, you have that footage of Perry Marshall. Your Facebook cover profile is being there at the Definitive Traffic Summit, which is great.
Yeah. But you're right. Like it's like what I just said about ChatGPT. You need to know your outcome. I'm not going in there looking for that shot. So now I know this is what I need to do and I'll go get the shot.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I have a whole session on how to be a professional speaker. So you should have one of your VAs, whatever, go through all of that and then pull out the key things that you need to get. Like there's some assets you just need to freaking play bingo and check the boxes for the assets that you need. Right.
Okay.
And then, I'm helping you with your personal brand and all that. So I'm happy to help you on any of those components or have our people help edit your video to make the speaker reel, like whatever you need.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. This is amazing.
We've done speaker reels for so many people.
Really? Wow. Yeah. What don't you do? Oh my gosh.
Well, I view it as like, if there's something that you need, there's a checklist behind it and then hire VAs to do that checklist. So we have this thing we call the 1,000 task library. And there's literally 1,000 tasks in there. A lot of them I've done myself and I've done over and over and over to demonstrate like this is the recipe on how you do this thing. And then that part's actually easy. The hardest part is how do you make it foolproof?
Right. Yep.
People will screw it up. Like, I mean, I don't mean just VAs, but just humans in general, like screw
things
up.
Yeah. Just in general. So no, you're amazing. How can I help you?
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love to like the more, this is sort of like counterintuitive, but like the more I can help add skills, the more I contribute value and people are doing $1 a day and doing the 4 stages in the content factory, then the more examples that we have. And that's the thing I want more examples of people that are doing what we're talking about.
Oh, so, okay.
Like, I'll show something. We call this learn, do, teach. Like I'll show like, hey, here's a speaker reel, or here's how you process a Zoom thing, like our thing today, or here's how we did this one thing. And I want to see as many people as possible doing the thing that we just demonstrated. Right. Okay. And so the more we can collect, the better. People say like, yeah, but you already have like thousands of examples. I know I do, but I'm just, it's
you want more. You want more.
Unlimited the number I want. I want fresh ones for funeral homes. So I'm at the NFDA, they're paying, I probably could have charged more, but they're paying me $10K to speak for an hour. And I'm giving away a book, a guidebook, step by step on how these funeral homes can hire a young adult from their local high school or college or their son to go through our checklist to gather these videos and use these AI tools and use it to improve their website and social media. And the outcome I'm looking for is, if we have like 4,000, 5,000 funeral homes and they're all, well, won't get all of them, but maybe we get like 20% to adopt this. That's 1,000 more jobs that we're creating, like that, like help me do that, like maybe look at the stuff, maybe we can take our checklist thing or what you've told me and we'll run it through ChatGPT and say, hey, now make this a proper SOP.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, for sure. So, okay. Yeah. That just gave me an idea. Like now No, I'm gonna plan in some $1 a day challenges then inside of Ad Skills. It's like they love it. They love it. And like some people just on their own initiative just started doing it. And then I was showing them how easy it is to sell. So
and I want to take what you said today and put it, because I'm distributing an actual checklist guide. It's it's not like some like 1-page thing that's super weak. Like I want to give this, I want to print out this thing and that people will say, holy crap, this is amazing. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, not only was Dennis's talk entertaining and eye-opening and funny, but now I feel like I understand AI and I could fire my marketing agency, or, I don't know if I want to say it like that because I'll piss off some people, but now I feel like, me being, because I'm very empathetic and I care, like I'm just pretending like I'm a funeral home director. I don't understand technology, but I care very much for our clients. And I didn't realize like that actually is my advantage, that empathy that I have. And using these techniques, and I'll demonstrate some of them live on stage, right?
If you said to them that they do whatever you sell or whatever you want, but like you have an SOP, it's not just a written SOP. It also has video walkthroughs along with it. Yeah. Because that's what I find people love about the SOPs. Like, cause I say like, I'm trying to cater to all learning modalities. So that's why we've got the video walkthrough, we've got this, we've got the screenshots, it's all step-by-step. And people are just like, they drool over that. Like if you just said, there's no thinking, like here it is, here's a link, go. And they would go nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to prepare that SOP. Maybe if you want to, sit down with me and together, we record that video that's embedded in there.
Of course, anytime.
As the walkthrough. Then bonus.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. No, let's do this. I think, I will figure out ways for us to get you more $1 a day case studies. So
yeah. Well, $1 a day is predicated on 1-minute videos. So ChatGPT can give you the ideas what to talk about, but it's not ready to make your videos for you, right?
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, we'll do this. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
You're always so wonderful and so wise, and just thanks for being so available. Like just thanks for being open to me asking you questions. I just appreciate that. I really do.
Just like the speaker thing, like if you didn't mention that, like I wouldn't know. I mean, it's back to what you said, like basically if you don't ask, you can't get, right? So just like I've done a lot of that professional speaker stuff. So it's not hard. You just need to paint by the numbers, right?
Yep, exactly. So, okay, well, I'll let you get back to your Sunday, and I'll talk to you soon. I hope next time I'm in Vegas, you'll also be in Vegas, so we can maybe get together. So
you let me know when. Let's do it.
I will. I'll probably end of September when I go over to Kevin's place. So
okay, let me know when. My keynote is on September 13th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
great.
10th to 13th.
Okay.
But I'm around. I should be, unless I decide to go to Asia or something. But let me know. I want to get together.
Yeah,
let me take you out to some Korean barbecue and all that.
That sounds amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Awesome, man. We'll see you. Bye.